What happened at the General Military Academy? Inside the academy, dawn breaks over stone and discipline. Boots strike gravel in unison. Breath turns visible in the cold air, then disappears. The General Military Academy does not announce itself with drama. It announces itself with routine. Walls older than most modern constitutions. Corridors designed to narrow posture and thought. A place where identity is deliberately stripped to test what remains. Institutions do not reveal themselves in ceremony, but in how they test those who will represent them. This is not a school in the conventional sense. It is a filter. Those who enter are not asked who they are. They are asked whether they can be relied upon when personality no longer matters. National identity is woven into these rituals. Not as pride, as burden. From the outside, attention tends to fixate on the presence of an air. On symbolism, on the novelty of visibility. Inside, that novelty evaporates quickly. The academy does not train future rulers. It trains continuity. This is the living thread of continuity. At roughly 2 minutes into this story, the first illusion collapses. Nothing happened in the way headlines prefer. There was no incident, no breach, no moment of drama, and that is precisely the point. The real test was endurance under invisibility. Schedules that do not adjust. Standards that do not bend. Silence that does not reassure. For an institution, equality of treatment is not kindness. It is verification. The air is not exempted because exemption would signal weakness in the system. And weakness, once signaled, spreads. What happened at the academy was subtraction. Of comfort, of narrative, of special framing. What remained was function. This is where misunderstanding deepens. Observers often assume the academy exists to teach command. In reality, it exists to teach constraint. Command comes later. Constraint must come first. Because constitutional monarchy depends on something fragile. Authority without intervention. Presence without control. The academy enforces this logic physically. Stand here. Wait. Do not explain. At 5 minutes, the phrase returns. Inside the academy. Spoken again, it no longer sounds like location. It sounds like condition. Because once inside, the institution is no longer observing performance. It is measuring predictability. How quickly instruction is absorbed. How thoroughly emotion is masked. How reliably composure replaces reaction. This is not cruelty. It is calibration. In Washington, this process is read pragmatically. A monarchy that submits its future to institutional discipline is a monarchy that understands limits. London recognizes the pattern immediately. They have lived through academies of a different kind, but with the same intent. To make the individual smaller than the role. Canada and Australia interpret this through constitutional distance. They watch for durability, not spectacle. For signs that the system still produces restraint. Germany views it clinically. Institutions that cannot enforce internal discipline eventually lose external credibility. The academy is not Spain's message to its public. It is Spain's message to its future. By 8 minutes, a deeper question emerges, one that is never answered openly. How much testing is enough? Because institutions must balance rigor with sustainability. Break what you train, and continuity fails. Shield what you train, and legitimacy erodes. What remains deliberately unspoken is how closely this balance is monitored. Medical assessments are precise. Psychological margins are measured, not guessed. Performance is reviewed without sentiment. This is not about toughness. It is about availability. Can the individual remain functional under prolonged pressure? Can presence remain stable when recognition is absent? Continuity is not abstract here, it is embodied in visible presence. But that presence must be able to endure invisibility first. At 10 minutes, escalation is felt rather than announced. More exposure to hierarchy. More proximity to authority without access to it. More expectation that discipline is internalized, not enforced. The institution leans forward, not publicly, internally. This is where strain becomes meaningful. Because once the system begins to rely on the outcome, neutrality ends. At 14 minutes, the point of no return arrives quietly. When the academy no longer treats the presence as provisional. From that moment, withdrawal would signal more than personal difficulty. It would signal institutional doubt. And institutions protect themselves first. The future threat is not immediate. It is structural. Debates about relevance. Questions of modernization. Pressure framed as adaptation. All of these converge on one requirement. That the person who represents continuity has already been tested beyond visibility. At 19 minutes, foreshadowing sharpens. What happened at the academy will not be referenced explicitly in future crises. It will be assumed resilience, Assumed restraint. Assumed reliability. This is how institutions work. They do not celebrate their tests. They depend on their outcomes. The final image returns to the courtyard. Order restored. Routine uninterrupted. Inside the academy. Spoken one last time, it no longer refers to a place. It refers to a standard. What comes next remains undecided. But the system has done what it always does. It has tested continuity, and moved forward as if the answer mattered.